Hi everybody, Johan Swart again, back with my series on the breed standard, part of the whole intentioned Boerboel Academy series. As you see, I've got a blank board. I received so many questions, so many inquiries about angulation. People are very happy what I've taught them so far on front and rear angulation, about the length of the limbs that should match, about the angle that it should be at, and all those things that they were very excited, and they said, oh, fantastic, look at my dog, I think his angulation is correct. Unfortunately, angulation does not stop at the front and the rear quarter, the hindquarter. There are multiple places where we refer to the angulation of the dog. And I can think of at least 10 different angles that should be considered. And tonight I just quickly want to run over all 10 of those angles to give everybody an idea of that it's, you know, it's not just because I've been involved with Boerboels for a very long time that I'm asked to come and judge your dogs. There's things that I must be able to see. There's things that I must be able to immediately recognize when I look at the structure of the dog, right? The first angle that people seem to forget. Now, an angle is always something that can be expressed in degrees. That's why we call it an angle. It's something that can be expressed in degrees. So if we talk about the angulation of a dog, where do we talk about degrees of one level to one thing to the other? And the very first thing that I can think in angulation that we should talk about is the planes of the roof of the skull, and the plane of the nasal bone. Now, what should those planes be? We said in the previous videos, they must be on the same plane. So the difference between the angle of the nose and the angle of the roof of the skull should be 0. They should be on the plane, the same plane, right? It's a straight line, so that is a 0 degree difference. A 0 degree difference, that is an angle. That's part of an angulation. The second thing we are going to look at, the second angle, is what we call the stop. The stop is where the roof of the skull goes over to the nasal bone. It's the part where the roof steps down to the nose. That angle there should be 45 degrees. Right? It shouldn't be 90 like a boxer. It shouldn't be straight like a bull terrier. Right? It is a 45 degree angle which the stop forms. The next angle is the forequarter. The forequarter. The angulation of the forequarter. And now we talk about the angulation of the shoulder. Right? That shoulder, and I have a whole video on that. I'm not going to go into that in detail now. That angulation of the forequarter should be between 90 to 110 degrees. Right? That's it. I see dogs that are straight as a die that are being said, oh, look at this dog's great angulation. I see dogs with the backsides up in the air like a wheelbarrow, right? And they are described as, look at this wonderful dog. Angulations are out. And I have that whole video out about how the angulation between the forequarter and the hindquarter should be matched and all of that. So I'm not going to go into that, but the forequarter have got specific angulations. The next one we should look at is the plum line. Right? Now, what is the plum line? The plum line is from the top of the shoulder, down to where the feet, the front of the feet. Right, the front of the front paws. If I take the tip of the shoulder blade at the top, where that little, you'll feel there's a little bump there, and I draw a line straight down, vertically to the ground, right? that line must touch the ground where the forelimbs, the foot actually touches. Why is that an angle? Why is that important? Because many dogs have a too pronounced chest. So they'll push the chest out, and if you look at where the top of the shoulder then goes down, we draw a line down to the ground, it actually touches the ground in front of the foot. So the dog's standing unbalanced forward to the front. Other dogs, the angulation is too straight. If you draw a line down, that line will touch the ground behind the paw. That's another angle in the angulation game that we must look at. Right. The next thing that we must look at, and also still on the forequarter, is, very important, the angle of the pastern. The front pastern. Now the front pastern is this little piece. The leg goes down and then it's got a little piece and there sits the foot. Okay? That's basically what a dog's hand piece looks like, right? You've got your toes of your foot, you've got this thing which is like the wrist, right? And that is called a pastern in a dog. Now that thing must not be straight, because if the dog runs and he hits the ground, he goes boom, 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 and that shock just goes straight up. That's the shock absorber of the forequarter. So when he hits the ground, you'll see that that pastern gives a little bit. It gives a little bit and it comes out straight again. It should also not be collapsed. If it's collapsed like this, that dog was overfed or malnutrition or something like that, and the front pasterns collapsed. So these are angles we are talking of. And the angle there, that angle should be on the line of the vertical. We always use the leg as the vertical. That pastern should be 22.5 degrees, right? 22.5 degrees, it's half of 45. It's easy to see, okay, that would be 45, it's about half of 45, then it's about right. So that is where we look at collapsed front pasterns and collapsed rear pasterns. But we are only talking about the front pasterns here now. Okay, right, front. Okay, right, the front pasterns. Now, the next angle that we are looking at is the top line. It's an angle, right? It's level. It's level to the ground. There's a relationship between two levels. The ground is here and the top line is here. If you say, oh, look at that dog's beautiful top line, but it's a wheelbarrow, right? It's standing with its backside up in there, or it's hyena with the backside sloping, right? Guys, that is not a level top line. It might be straight, but the description in the breed standard is it must be level, not straight, level, right? So, top line, level, important, right? Angle number 7, very critically important, and something which is wrong in many Boerboels, and which virtually nobody sees. But if you look at the fault in mobility, and if you look at those raised backsides, it all lies in the slope or the angle of the croup. Ish, I'm not a good handwriting expert, right? The slope of the croup, right? The croup is the pelvic bone of the dog. So where you get to the end of a level spine, you take a pen or something solid, you push it next to the tail until it sits in a natural position. If it's down tilted like this, which is about 45 degrees, it's too sharp. The angle of the croup is too steep. If you pull it up like this and there's no angle, no dip down, right? That angle is too shallow, right? The angle, the slope of the croup should be the same as the front pasterns, 22.5 degrees, right? 22.5 degrees for the slope of the croup. I forgot one angle in the forequarter. Right? In the forequarter, there's one angle that I forgot, and that is the layback angle of the scapula. Now, if you look at the dog, and there goes the neck of the dog, there goes the little saddle, and there that goes, and there comes the neck, and there's the chest and the legs, and the elbow going there, and the front leg coming down, right? And the scapula sits about here. That's that bone that sits there. And then your shoulder bone goes in there, and your leg bone goes down, right? That angle there, that's the one I'm talking about. What angle does that lie down to? Now that angle should ideally be 45 degrees. Okay, so it's the layback angle of the scapula. Scapula, 45 degrees. Okay. Right, sorry I had to change my page, ran out of space, right, too many angles, right. I will get back to my previous one, and I really want you guys to take a piece of paper and to make notes for yourself, right, because to try and go back to YouTube every time to try and remember things is a little bit difficult. Okay, number 9, angle number 9 is the angle of the hindquarter, right, hindquarter, right, quarter. Okay, right, hindquarter, right. The angle of the hindquarter was discussed in a video in detail. There's a full video in this series that just discusses the hindquarter angulation, and I will do another video, a separate one, just on forequarter, and another one just on hindquarter. It's not that I want to overemphasize angulation, but angulation is critically important, right? Everybody should know what it is, and the hindquarter, what I'm going just to say here is it must match the front forequarter, and the angles that we are talking about in the hindquarter and the forequarter is 90 to 110 degrees, right? Those are the angles that we are looking at. Number 10, angle number 10. You would think we are finished now. No. There's something critical that we forgot, and that is to look at the dog from the front and from the rear. If we look at the dog from the front, its forelimbs, its front legs should be vertical to the ground, and that's something that we see huge faults in nowadays. I'm not talking about the feet, I'm not there yet. I'm talking about the forelimbs. How often nowadays do you see dogs that have limbs like that? They're starting to look like these American bullies, right? It seems to be the in thing to have these things with muscles like they just come out of a gym and they pumped and they're full of steroids and and the elbows are out there and they must be mean and they must be badass, right? It's not a Boerboel. What you see there is a little monstrosity that somebody created in his mind. Okay, so the forelimbs should be parallel to each other and vertical to the ground. Right, from the side, the forelimbs should be vertical to the ground, and from the front. Okay, so the forelimb from the front must be vertical and straight and parallel. Okay, must be parallel, right? Vertical, straight and parallel. Okay, that's on the forelimbs. Now on the forelimbs we get to the other thing, also looking from the front, and that is the angle of the front pastern. As I said, when we look at the pasterns from the side, they should have an angle of about 22.5 degrees. But when we look at them from the front, this little piece in the front, it should not turn like this, right? It should not turn in like this, right? It must not be east-west. It must not be east-east and west-west, right? It must be straight, right? They must look forward, straight, right? So the front pastern must be straight, if viewed from the front. That is an angle. Straight is an angle, right? Number 12. The 12 is the hind limbs, the back side. let's call it the hindquarter. Alright, the hindquarter. Hindquarter. Right, the hindquarter. If you look at the hindquarter from the rear, we spoke about the angulation of the hindquarter from the side. It's 90 to 110 degrees. What happens if you look at it from the rear? If we look at it from the rear, it must not be legs like this, bandy legs, right? The dog trying to spell ox with the knees in and the little feet down here, right? And it looks like very horrible, right? And there's a little tail. Man, that's horrible. That's not a Boerboel. That is not correct. So that hindquarter, the limbs should be aligned in a straight line. It should not deviate like that. It should not deviate inwards like this, right? We call it, even though over-angulation in the hindquarter is possible, and we call it sickle hocks, these we call cow hocks. It looks like a cow that you're about to milk, right? It doesn't look like a dog with proper angulation. And look at many of the dogs today. That's why the appraiser is going to, when the dog runs away from him, he's actually got to step in behind the dog and look at the dog straight from the back and decide, are those hind limbs really following? Are they tracking, or are they collapsing inwards or outwards, right? And that hindquarter angulation is very critical, and that must also be straight, right? And then we get to the pasterns at the back. Number 13 is the back pasterns, the hind pasterns, the back. Oh, let's call it the back pasterns. Sorry, I'm not so good at all these English terms. That's not my mother language. And soon I'll have to learn them in Portuguese as well. But the back pasterns, the hind pasterns of the dog, is the same as the front pastern. If you look at that hind pastern, it must be pointed straight ahead. It must be on the hind leg, which comes down a little bit more of an angle. That pastern at 25 degrees, 22.5 degrees, it must be straight. Again, it must not turn out. Again, it must not turn in, right? So those are the angles that we are looking at. So 13 different angles. A lot of them says they must be straight. They must be parallel to the rest of the leg. They must be vertical to the ground. So a lot of the things are quite easy to remember. If you see any bandy-leggedness, anything that looks awkward, anything that impairs mobility, then you know you've got an angulation problem. Not that the dog is straight in front and people say, hey, that dog's angulation sucks, it's not good. Man, there are 13 different points of angulation that I pointed out to you guys here. There are lots of things that angulation, the word angulation encompasses. Okay, now this was just another one of the lectures. Why I don't get back to the full breed standard is so much of my time is taken up by things that I thought people knew. I mentioned angulation in one of the first videos, and the people jumped on me and said, please tell us more about angulation. We don't understand this. And then I went and I did a forequarter and a hindquarter angulation, and more questions came pouring in. The people said, what is this thing? We need to understand what this is, right? And that's why I made this one now as well. Okay. To summarize, there's 13 different types of angulation. The first one, so let's start from the back. We start at the back pasterns. They must be straight, nice in line, right? If you look at them from the back of the dog, running away from you, right? The hindquarter, right? The hindquarter itself, if you look at those back pasterns, they must not be turned out. And the hindquarter itself, the limbs must be straight and vertical to the ground, okay? The front pastern, it must also be straight. It must not be turned out east-west or something like that. It must be fine, right? It should face forward, straight forward. And that's what the breed standard says. All the breed standard says it must face forward. But then you get a dog coming out of the ring and it's got bandy legs like this and the feet's like this, and the judge said nothing because they don't know the breed standard, right? Then the forelimbs, if you look at them from the front, They must be vertical, straight and parallel. How many dogs do you see that are not correct on that? Many, many, many. Because the breed standard is not being applied. Number 9, the hindquarter. It must match the front quarter and it must be 90 to 110 degrees, but there's a full video on that. Right, let's go down to number 8. The layback angle of the scapula, 45 degrees. It should, that rules how far the dog can put his leg forward when he's running. 45 degrees is seen as the optimum, right? If that angle is more than 45, the dog starts prancing like a horse, right? It's 45 degrees is a good reach for the dog and he gets good drive going through to the back. The slope of the croup, big problem in many of the Boerboels that I see. 22.5 degrees, right? It is not a slope of the croup that goes down like this. That's why the angulation in the back is out. That's why the level of the spine is out. Topline, level. Pasterns in front. This little piece, 22.5 degrees. Plum line, it's the top of the shoulder, the tip of the shoulder at the top, right down to the ground must be where the front of the foot, must align to the front level, the front of the forelimb, it must be on the same line going down to the front of the front paws. Okay. The forequarter, 90 to 110 degrees. We discussed the forequarter and the hindquarter. The stop, 45 degrees. The planes of the roof and the skull, 0. They must be on the same plane, the roof of the skull and the nasal bone. Okay, that's angulation again for you. You see, there's so much you've got to learn. If you want to learn more about the breed, it's not just the breed standard. You've got to know where the breed comes from. And it bothered me for many years where this breed came from. And I did many, many years of research. And I still get very weird questions on Facebook about the bull and baiter and about this and about that. And oh, somebody very positive said, you know, these dogs were bred from the dogs that was imported for the De Beers diamonds. No. I researched all of those popular myths, and I wrote a book about it. The book is called The Origins and the History of the Boerboel. The book is available. I can send it nearly anywhere in the world. Currently, with COVID regulations and COVID restrictions, we can't. There are many countries that don't accept postage. So I will reply to you and I'll tell you, listen, please, I can't send to you now, but let's keep you on the list and we'll get back to you when your country opens up your borders to receive postal packages, right? Sometimes a country is on the list this month and it's removed the next month. It depends on the different governments and the decisions they make between themselves. We can't control it. It's a damn difficult time to start distributing a book in. But in any case, to order the book is very simple. You send me an email. You don't have to ask me, is the book available? Yes, the book is available. You don't have to ask me, how do I order? It's simple. You send an email to boerboelbook@gmail.com. boerboelbook@gmail.com. Simple. Tell me what your address is. Tell me which country you come from. Tell me how many books you want. And give me the address, the proper delivery address, not a postal address. Guys, I get guys saying, listen, can you please deliver one book to me? I'm in Senegal. I say, where in Senegal, sir? And the guy sends me a postal address. I'm just using Senegal as an example. I'm not referring to anybody or to any specific country. Okay, guys, but this is it. Now, if you like my video, and I know lots of people wait for Facebook to remind them, just on this page, click like. First of all, I like it to see that you like what I do. Secondly, subscribe. And there's a little bell next to subscribe. Click subscribe and go ping on that bell. Then you'll get a reminder every time I post a new video. If you just click subscribe, you'll only be subscribed to my channel. But by clicking on that little bell, you also get a reminder. I thank you very much. I thank you for your time. Yeah, it's my videos are not often coming out, and I would actually love to make more, but at this stage I just don't have the time. We're all in a struggle trying to survive, so let's do our best and keep the breed safe. I thank you.